CTV News with Caroline Van Vlartigan.
Good evening. It's been almost 24 hours now since an Air Canada regional jet slammed into an emergency vehicle at New York's LaGuardia airport. 2 young pilots were killed and several passengers and crew members were injured. But the 2 people inside the emergency vehicle and a flight attendant ejected from the plane in her seat miraculously survived. It's been 34 years since the fatal crash at LaGuardia. Genevieve Beauchemin now on how a routine landing suddenly turned deadly.
Parts of the mangled cockpit hang from the Air Canada Express wreckage as investigators piece together the cause of the collision.
Man, that wasn't good to watch.
Chilling audio from the air control tower reveals some of the communications leading up to the crash and its horrifying aftermath.
Man, that wasn't good to watch.
Yeah, I know I was here. I tried to reach out to my staff, and we were dealing with an emergency earlier. I messed up.
No, man, you did the best you could.
At around 11:40 p.m. Sunday, a Port Authority fire truck is responding to another emergency. Another plane reporting odor in the cabin.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower, requesting to cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, crossing 4 at Delta.
Stop, Truck 1. Stop. Stop, Truck 1. Stop.
The CRJ 900, operated by Jazz Aviation, landing at LaGuardia, smashes nose first into the truck of the airport's runway 4.
Sadly, the 2 pilots are confirmed deceased, and notifications are being made by Air Canada's care team at this time.
One of those pilots was Antoine Forêt from Coteau-du-Lac, Quebec. A flight attendant was found nearly 100 meters from the plane, still strapped in her jump seat that was ripped from the airplane. CTV News has confirmed that her name is Solange Tremblay and that she was undergoing surgery.
We're fully supporting the relevant investigative authorities in their investigation to learn everything we can about these events.
Dozens of passengers were treated and released, but others are in serious condition in hospital.
Everybody screaming. Pretty quickly, we didn't have any directions because the pilot's cabin had been kind of destroyed. So
he smashed his face into the seat in front of him, broke his glasses.
Sarah Dorner's husband, a professor at Montreal's Polytechnic Institute, was on board.
He smelled gas, so he was encouraging people to just slide down, go down the wing. He was there to catch them.
Canada's National Transportation Safety Board has also dispatched a team of investigators to assist in the probe. Genevieve Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
Aviation analyst John Graddick says the communication between air traffic control and ground control will be very closely investigated. He also says it doesn't help that air traffic controllers are understaffed and working under very difficult conditions.
The controllers in the U.S. are under severe stress. We know that there are about 3,000 controllers short across the U.S. aviation system. The FAA has said that they are looking to try to get people trained pretty quickly to become controllers. That's not an easy job to do. So there is a shortage of controllers, and these controllers are working some long shifts. So I don't know what the shifts were for this individual that was doing ground control nor approach control, but that's going to be one of the elements. But that both the National Transportation Safety Board in the U.S. and the Canadian Transportation Safety Board, who are now part of this investigation, they'll be looking at things like, the amount of time that these controllers are on shift. Was it the end of a shift, beginning of a shift? Did they have a break? Did they not have breaks? All of those things that would detract from, a second-by-second attention span that you have to have when you're moving these types of equipment across active airport runways. So that's something they're going to be looking at very closely.
And we will have more on the crash with John Graddick later on in our newscast. A pedestrian is in critical condition tonight after being hit by a vehicle in Terrebonne. It happened just before 8 p.m. in the La Plaine district. One person was sent to hospital with serious injuries but is expected to survive. And Montreal police are investigating shots fired in Côte-des-Neiges tonight. A report came in at around 7:30 about a group of youth that got into a dispute. Police were then called to a dépanneur at Edouard Montpetit near Côte-des-Neiges. They found a gunshot hole in a window, but no victims and no suspects arrested so far. What is expected to be a landmark case for constitutional law and Quebec society began today. Hearings into Quebec's ban on religious symbols, Bill 21, are being held before the Supreme Court of Canada. Here's Kelly Gregg.
It'll take 4 days of hearings, more than twice the amount of time most cases get, and include arguments from 61 parties, including Canada's Attorney General. But 7 judges will decide the future of Bill 21.
Today we're here to talk about what is arguably the most consequential court case of our generation.
The challenge to Quebec's ban on religious symbols centers on gender equality, minority rights, jurisdiction, and the preemptive use of the notwithstanding clause. Since being adopted in 2019, Bill 21 has forced teachers who wear religious symbols out of the province.
Muslim women who choose to teach should not have to choose or be forced to choose between her conscience and her career.
A study published today by the United Nations raises concerns that Bill 21 perpetuates discrimination by disproportionately targeting religious minorities, particularly Muslim women who wear the hijab. The lawyer for the EMSB argues English schools should have an exception.
The evidence establishes that valuing and celebrating religious traditions and diversity is practiced as a way of life in Quebec's English schools.
One of the most challenging legal questions is over Quebec's preemptive use of Section 33, the notwithstanding clause.
Our challenge also raises a broader constitutional question. There must be limits on the use of the notwithstanding clause.
Today, Justice Malcolm Rowe pushed back.
Why don't you just say it out loud? You want us to review whether it is somehow justified by reference to some criteria you want us to adopt, and that we will say whether 33 has been properly utilized or not.
This week's hearings are the latest chapter in a debate that's existed since the Quiet Revolution. Is secularism a fundamental part of the Quebec nation, and can it be legislated?
So the legislator said it himself. This is about imposing a vision of values on Quebec society.
The Supreme Court has already found Quebec has its own social values. Now it will have to rule if someone who wears a religious symbol will have different rights in one province versus another. Tuesday, Quebec's Attorney General will have the opportunity to argue in what's expected to be a landmark decision for Quebec politics and Quebec society. Kelly Gregg, CTV News.
Marion Sandilands is a lawyer representing one of the groups intervening in the case, and she explains why this is about much more than just whether or not Quebec employees can wear religious garb on the job.
Remember, the Bill 21 case started way back in 2019, and since that time, there's been a huge revival in the use of the notwithstanding clause, not just in Quebec, but also across Canada. And the clause has been used to override the rights of minorities and labor groups. And this is a trend that's worth noticing. A decade ago, everyone thought the notwithstanding clause would be so unpopular that it would be rarely used. And now it's being used in ways that are downright popular. That's a huge cultural change.
Meantime, another court ruling is being hailed as a big victory for pet owners. Matt Grillo explains.
In the next few weeks, tenants across Quebec will begin their search for a new home. Many will have their sights set on pet-friendly apartments, and a recent decision from the Housing Tribunal will certainly catch their attention. A judge canceled a landlord's no-pet clause. M. Desjardins is the tenant at the center of this case.
I think it's amazing. It's amazing. If it can help other families to stay housed and to stay with their companions, I'm excited about that.
They had fought for years to keep their home and pet, having lived in their apartment with pets since 2011. But their current landlord said they were breaking the rules. In the decision, the judge said the general ban on keeping an animal in a dwelling therefore constitutes an oppressive and unacceptable intrusion into a person's family life, inside their own home, a privileged place of their private life. It's a major victory for the SPCA, who was an intervener in the case.
We've recognized animals are sentient beings now that they are full members of our families. The law needs to adapt to that.
But it's not exactly clear how this will change Quebec's housing laws going forward.
It's not like it will automatically overnight render everybody's no pet clause in their lease void. However, it will certainly increase the chances of anyone going before the tribunal on a case like this. It'll increase their chances of winning their case.
The tenant's lawyer in this case says many people have to make the heartbreaking decision to let their pet go.
Having to choose between your home and a pet is unreasonable, and unfortunately we've seen many tenants for many years that had to make that difficult choice, and it is very hard for them.
The Quebec Landlords Association says if building owners were allowed to ask for a security deposit, it would help.
We've been saying that for a long time, that if we implement a possibility of having a deposit, a lot of landlords will be more than willing to accept pets in the unit.
The SPCA hopes this decision will push Quebec political parties to ban no-pet clauses and include it in their electoral platform this fall. Matt Grillo, CTV News.
Montreal is changing how it helps businesses affected by construction. But some owners say even with changes, relief isn't guaranteed. Here's Laurence Bisson-Dubreuil.
Lunch hour once meant a full house here on Stanley Street.
Our sales have just gotten worse and worse and worse.
Brigade Pizzeria co-owner Jean-Daniel Nadeau has watched his restaurant slowly empty out. He says the pandemic, followed by years of downtown construction, especially along St. Catherine West, have taken a major toll. Before that, he says business was steady every day. Now sales are down 60%, but expenses haven't budged.
The taxes are still at 100%, the Hydro-Quebec is still 100%, everything is still 100%. And we, in this economy, we cannot raise our price just, to fulfill the gap. It doesn't make sense.
The mayor says her administration is listening. City Hall is promising faster, simpler financial aid for businesses hit by major construction. The new program merges two systems with $5,000 up front and up to $40,000 total. The eligibility window is now 3 months of continuous work with applications online and payments expected to come faster. The city says this is also about reviving Montreal.
We have to make sure that we're keeping our local merchants and their vitality in downtown core.
More businesses now qualify, with over 20 commercial zones being expanded. City Councillor Leslie Roberts says the old system left too many out, including on Stanley Street, where only one side qualified before.
What we did was just change the zoning so that both sides now have the eligibility.
Meaning Brigade Pizzeria is now included. But even with promises of a system that's broader, simpler, and faster, Nadeau says there's still a big unknown.
Are we going to get $500, $20, $0, or $440,000? I have no idea. And that's the biggest issue. We don't know if we're really going to go and get help.
After 12 years in business, he's hoping to stay open for many more, just without the constant disruption outside his door.
Downtown needs love. It really needs love.
Laurence Bisson-Dubreuil, CTV News.
An Amber Alert over the weekend prompted many questions and complaints. It went off at 4 o'clock in the morning on Sunday for 2 missing children in Trois-Rivières. But people complained that the alert was too loud and wondered why they were being notified of a missing child hundreds of kilometers away.
We need people to take action when they hear the bells or the ringing tone that's on the phone, because I know the ringing tone is kind of obnoxious, getting on your nerves and everything, but that's what we want. We want people to look at their phone, what's going on, what's missing, and can I help? And for Sûreté du Québec, the last 3 abductions, they were clearly held. We clearly had help from the citizens that gave us the information where those people were.
And there's more on this story on our website, ctvnewsmontreal.ca. Well, it looks like the Quebec Conservative Party will finally have a seat in the National Assembly. After months of speculation, reports today that the MNA for Rimouski has decided to join the Conservative Party of Quebec. Maite Blanchette Vézina left the CAQ last September to sit as an independent. In January, she made an appearance with Conservative Party leader Éric Duhaime. An official announcement is expected tomorrow. A French national who graduated from university in Quebec is now caught up in a bureaucratic mess. It began when he decided to prove his efficiency not only in French, but also in English. Stéphane Giroux explains.
French-born Tom Mandala arrived to study in Quebec at age 17, with what he describes as sparkles in his eyes.
I came in my class and everyone was so kind and so welcoming.
7 years later, Mandala has earned his diploma in marketing at the UQAM. He applied for his post-graduation work visa. He thought it would be a technicality.
So I went to see my roommate. I was like, oh my God, go get the champagne, you're gonna pop the bottle. I got accepted. And I opened the letter, I dropped my phone, and yeah, no, it was the worst night. I didn't sleep all night.
Mandala's work visa was denied on the grounds he failed the language test. French is his mother tongue, but he figured he'd do the English test given he passed it with flying color at the UQAM.
And in my program at UQAM, I had to pass an English test to have my diploma, because it was a requirement to have the diploma. So I did that, I did the English test.
Unfortunately for Mandala, the English exam at the UQAM is not recognized by Canada's Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Department, which led to the rejection of his application. And with it came the notice that after 7 years of calling Montreal home, he had 3 months to pack up and leave. Passing another language test would have meant months of delays because of bureaucratic backlog. In a statement to CTV, Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Department said, reconsideration of an officer's decision is available to clients who receive a negative immigration decision and can be requested through the IRCC online web form. Mandala found a way around this. He discovered this weekend that he could get a new date for an English test and that it would be much faster than to wait for someone in the government to realize that he actually speaks French.
And hopefully it doesn't take much long to get like a new visa, because like I said, I can work. And this is, yeah.
Mandala is ready to work. He just hopes bureaucracy won't crush his dreams. Stéphane Giroux, CTV News.
And still to come, more on the fatal Air Canada crash at LaGuardia and what may have saved the passengers.
Download the CTV News app and stay on top of local stories as they unfold.
Increasing number of abandoned buildings.
Customize your feed and watch live wherever you are. CTVMontreal.ca, your home for news.
American and Canadian investigators are now working to try to piece together what caused an Air Canada regional jet to slam into a rescue vehicle at LaGuardia Airport late last night. Joining us now to discuss this more is aviation analyst John Graddick. So, John, we've heard an awful lot today about, the potential speed that this plane was at when it hit the truck. We've heard recordings from the control tower, but what struck you the most about what you saw and heard today?
Oh, it's just that the incident just happened suddenly. The passenger flight was basically minding its own business, doing what it's normally supposed to do, which is basically carry passengers from Trudeau Airport to LaGuardia on a Sunday night. Scheduled arrival was 11:40 and came in on time. Aircraft was cleared to land on runway 4 at LaGuardia. It did touch down on time, on schedule. And as it was going down the runway and starting to brake, the nose of the airplane came back and touched the runway. And then the pilots basically saw this truck pulling out of the taxiway and onto the runway. And
as
they
you
had
say,
no
it
choice
seemed
but
like
really, they slammed into it.
Seemed like such an ordinary flight, right? Something that probably happens, every week, several times a week, and yet, it ended, in the deaths of 2 young pilots. Really a tragedy. So, of course, they're going to be looking at black boxes on this flight. But can you say anything yet about the communication problems?
Well, we didn't hear, I noticed today in some of the recordings and some of the reporting that was done that the ground controllers were in fact talking to the Air Canada Jazz flight. There was communication between the ground controllers and the Air Canada Jazz on approach, and they were cleared to land on runway 4. So there was no problem with communication between the ground controllers and the aircraft. And that same ground controller basically gave clearance to that fire truck to basically enter the runway in which this aircraft was landing. So to me, there seems to have been a breakdown in communication or basically or awareness of somewhere along the line about this truck being introduced onto a runway when there's an active airplane landing, and that's the concerning part.
One of the things that I think has struck a lot of people is when you look at the damage to the nose of the plane and you see where those pilots unfortunately lost their lives, it's pretty amazing that other people didn't die, including a flight attendant who was jettisoned from the plane and basically landed on the runway in her jump seat or her chair. Are you amazed that not more people were killed? I mean, some people were injured, but not more were killed.
Yeah, it was, to me, that the fact that flight attendant got ejected, saved her life. So that, to me, was a miracle on that flight that she got ejected. The aircraft, are built to withstand a number of incidents or a number of hits by different types of product, whether it's hail or whether it's birds or everything else. But once you hit a 15-ton truck that's sitting in front of you on a runway, there is not much protection for the front of the aircraft, and so everything got crumpled up. And that crumpling basically what saved the passengers really was the fact that airplane's structure did allow for some crumpling and absorption of shock. And so that's a credit to the CRJ, to Bombardier, for the building and structure of that airplane. But that allowed 72 passengers and one flight attendant to really leave the airplane pretty quickly.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will continue to follow the investigation. Lots more questions to be answered. And thank you for joining us tonight, John.
My pleasure, Carolyn. Have a good evening.
Menswear provided by Ernest. Elevate your style with Ernest. For breaking news and local news that matters to you, download the CTV News app right now by scanning the QR code on your screen using your smartphone. Or you can also go to our website, ctvnewsmontreal.ca. Weather brought to you by Gratianscaf. Second pair is a gift event including designer frames. A second pair free for a limited time.
Well, cloudy skies dominated today's forecast. In addition to that, our temperatures were slightly below seasonal. Let's take a look at what today's daytime high was. So normally we'd be around 4 degrees, and we barely made it past 0 with a high of 1 degree. Now tomorrow we should be a little bit warmer than that, and we'll start the day off with more sunshine than we saw today. So let's put our futurecast into motion. Well, we finally saw some clearing of those clouds, but it's not going to last for long. We do start the day off with some sunshine, so that's the good news. If you want to get out and get that vitamin D in, it's better earlier in the day because the clouds will move in come the afternoon. And we're tracking this system because it looks like around 6 or 7 o'clock there will be some spotty showers, or I should say snow showers in the vicinity. We're not looking at a significant snowfall, and it depends where you are on the island, but it won't last long because that system does push eastwards. Montreal sitting under cloudy skies as we start our Wednesday, and we could see additional snow Wednesday evening. So we do have a little bit more snow headed our way, but once again, not a significant snowfall. Tonight, it will be on the cooler side. We're seeing an overnight low of -8, feeling like -14, and typically we'd see lows around -4 or 5 this time of year. Into the early morning hours, we do start the day off with that sunshine, which is the good news. -7 is our wake-up temperature. We will hit a daytime high tomorrow of 2 degrees with cloudy skies in the afternoons, and we have winds gusting from the southwest up to 40 kilometers an hour. Nothing like we saw about a week or 2 ago, so that's the good news there. Now, here's what we're forecasting over the next 7 days. We do know that come Wednesday, we will once again see a high of only 1 degree. We're expecting around 4 centimeters of snow in the evening. Come Thursday, well, we'll finally hit a normal daytime high of 4 degrees, but we could see around 10 millimeters of a rain-snow mix. Friday, lots of sunshine in the forecast, but that dip in the temperature of -4 will feel a little bit cooler because we're seeing a high of 4 the day before. For the weekend, it's looking pretty nice, a mix of sun and clouds, and it looks like come Monday, we'll finally see our temperatures rebound to where they should be.
Sounds good. And that wraps it up for us tonight. For the latest news, you can listen to the Andrew Carter Morning Show at 5 on CJD 800. And of course, you can always head to ctvnewsmontreal.ca for extended coverage. Thanks for staying up late with us. Have a good night, and we'll see you again tomorrow.